you've been doing research throughout decades about ancient Chinese culture, especially interactions between China and Europe through ancient times. Tell me more about how you see that cultural exchanges in a way set in the overall landscape of China in ancient times.
I began to research China because I think it's very interesting to see how the ideas on another country become and consolidated and also move in the times to times. So when I began to read and to study the old documentation of Europeans on China, so the first documents are from Italian and from Franciscans and from Portuguese navigators, what we see is a very great admiration on the Chinese civilization. The first meetings from Europeans with China is always of a great admiration, and they describe the civilization of China as a very sophisticated one, and they are very detailed, and so we became to have known China by the letters of the first navigators and also the first Jesuits. These missions of Christianity in China, they used to write letters very detailed of their own life in China. They were written in Portuguese monasteries in order to try to convince the young people in Portugal and the other Catholic countries to come to China at that time in 16th century. So we arrived in China in 1513. It's first time that the Portuguese went directly to China, and we connected the maritime Atlantic route to the ancient Silk Route. And this is amazing because it was the first time the Europeans can receive silks, porcelains, and even the paper money. So the most sophisticated objects from China arrive in thousands in a massive way in Europe.
I'm sure they also described the political system in China then. That was actually a feudal society, that period of time.
At that time, we are also seeing that he described the judicial regime in China has a very just regime, a very correct one. So they try to be fair in the judgment in that times in China. So the Europeans became very with a very admiration, very enthusiastic on Chinese system, political and judicial system, and so also in these first times we began to change our knowledge with the knowledge of Chinese. So some of these priests, Jesuits, became employed by the emperor in Beijing as cartographers, as so in different fields, in physics, and they make clocks. The clocks has used in Europe to do it, and so we change technologies also. Yeah. So it's a win-win communication and win-win negotiation at that time.
There was a period of time when China experienced colonialism. Yeah. There was also times of wars and conflicts. China were occupied by various invaders, some of them coming from Europe. But how do you see history changed later? And how is that part of history in a way, lay the foundation of the current debates about the political system, about cultures, about, what's next, about who is the most powerful?
For a European, it's a pity, for me as a historian, it's a pity that Europe does not recognize in a very correct way what they have done in the past. Nowadays, we, of course, change and we try to have relations in a diplomatic way, no? And China became another time a great nation in the world. We have economist called André Gunder Frank, and this economist says that if the world economy from the 1st century to 19th century can become as a train machine, the machine in front was the economy of China. The second locomotive, second machine will be India, and the Europeans were in the back of the train, no? And so it's very natural that China today returned to take its own position in the world.
Do you see the digestion of history, more accurate versions at least, will be able to help people understand the nature of transformation that we are seeing today in our world?
I think the knowledge is the only way to become a better person, each one of us. If we don't know each other, we cannot understand each other. And we only have the information of the news. They are politicized by the power. So we need real to learn the history. And I try very hard in my country to promote the Chinese history and also the studies of China language, first of all. The Portuguese, the Europeans need to learn Chinese in order to learn and to study the real documentation of Chinese and not only what the European says about China. It's very different, and it's naturally to be different because we have a different kind of perspective. So the knowledge is the only way to become a more better human beings. And the only way is also has a pacific relationship, diplomatic relationship, and never use the war in order to dominate the other. What we try to do is to promote studies by one part, and by other part the cultural, and by cultural we meant to say that we need to know also the culture of China.
How do you see that as a historian? Is the human race as a whole making progress, or are we really stepping big steps back?
I think we are in a danger times, because for percentage of the people in the world, people of the United States, and not all the people of the United States, but the government wants to remain as hegemony all the world. So they don't want to share the world with the others. We are already in a multipolar world. The world is only one world. So we need to preserve the world. And we are spending money not to promote a better world, a better, to fight against the climate change. We are using the resources of the world to make war. So it's a nonsense.
What does that make to you when you think about the natures of political systems today, and how we are, which stage has it reached, really?
I think we are in a danger world, but we have a good perspectives also of development, because what China is doing, I think they show a different way of development. China don't want to take part of wars. So in order to use the money to protect the lives of Chinese people, so to expand the economy and to expand human rights in China in order to have a better life, but to control also the ambience. So they built this very big wall of trees. So the green wall near the deserts that China is building now with the great success is an example how to use the resources of a country. Now, for us in Europe, that now all the governments, without consultation to our parliaments, our roads are financing the war. They don't want to put men there, but they finance the war.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for today. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of my team. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.